All right, you made it to the final principle, which is to divide labor. One thing you'll find when you start to work with prompts professionally is that you're not actually using just one prompt. I've tried to stuff this whole thing into one prompt, and it's done a pretty good job. I'm tricking it really. I'm getting it to do an outline, then I'm getting it to write. And then we did actually divide labor a little bit because we separated the image prompt here, and it's generating the images afterwards. But we don't have that much division of labor here, and we're trying to do everything in one. What I find is that it's much better to do it iteratively. And this is a really important thing when it comes to programming. If you do start to learn how to code and you're using AI in programming space, you will want to separate different tasks out. And it's much easier to do that. But even when you're just prompting ChatGPT normally, what I find is that separating the prompts out into different sessions or different messages within the same session makes a massive difference to the type of results that you can get. So we're going to break it down and I'm going to show you how I would normally actually write a blog post. So this is my real writing system. This is what I really use, not just these specific principles that we talked about so far, but actually dividing that up into multiple tasks. So let's get started. The first thing that I always do is research first. So I'm going to ask it to look up prompt engineering and write 5 non-obvious insights on the topic. Now you can ask it to summarize if you want. You can ask it to do lots of different things, but in general, I think it's really useful to get some anchor into what everyone else is talking about on that topic, because it's going to help you rank better. You're going to include some stuff that other people have included in their blog posts, and it's obviously important to include if a lot of the top blog posts that rank are using these terms. But it's also going to prompt you, right? This is a two-way conversation. It's not just you prompting ChatGPT. If you can get it to do the research on your behalf, and you can see it did a pretty quick search, and it pulled back a bunch of different links that you could read, gave you some non-obvious insights here, and that's really helpful because quite often, if I need to create a blog post on a topic and I can't really think at first, I've got a blank page. Like what do I know about prompt engineering again? But once I start reading this, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that. Zero shot, single shot, multi-shot, chain of thought prompting. Like these are all things that trigger sparks flying in my brain, and I think all of a sudden, oh yeah, I've got this idea. So I think it's really helpful to start with research first, and because these tools can look things up on the internet, then it can pull in some initial research for you to get started. So that's the first thing I like to do. And then I typically ask it to create an outline next. So this is using the least to most principle, which this is a prompt you recognize from the previous principles. Just going to paste that in there. Now that means we're going to generate the actual outline first, and we can react to that outline. Because we're doing this in a separate prompt and we're not asking it to go straight into writing, then I think that's going to be really important. We're not going to have to jump straight into writing and waste all those tokens if it's not generating a good response. We can review the outline first, and then we can give it some ideas, or we can tell it to take some things away, whatever we want. We can edit this outline before it actually goes live with writing. And because it's not doing too many things at once, it's just focusing on the outline, you tend to get much better results. Like already I can see visually that like this outline is much better than what we've seen in the past with these other prompts, because it's trying to do too many things at once. It gets confused. It's even coming up with more interesting headlines here, like the Dark Forest of Errors is really cool. The Crystal of Clarity, Return to Promptopia. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, what you can do is you can ask it to change it. So you can say, I want the hook of the blog post to be that no matter how advanced AI gets, humans will still be mostly interested in what other humans are doing. Not. Okay, so this is something I do actually believe, because I think that we really care about other humans and we are interested in what they're doing. The interesting thing here is not that AI has generated this content, but that I have given it so much guidance to make it specific to the vision that I want. And that's what people are going to care about, the human angle. And I've even changed the outline here by, this is very meta, asking it to change the hook for the blog post. So I've injected some secret sauce here, and I can put in some of my own experiences. I can put in some of my own insights. I can put in some of my own opinions to this brief, and then it's going to generate a much better blog post at the end of it. That's the trick to getting content that sounds more human level. Cool. The next thing I want to do after getting the outline sorted is I want to ask it to generate 10 very creative ideas for titles. And I think it's really important to do it this phase because the title that you choose tends to affect the content and how it's written. But choosing the title is like 80% of the value of a blog post. If you don't have a good title, then people won't even read it in the first place. So I usually ask it to generate lots of different ideas. I ask it to be creative because it's important to get some diversity in the ideas here. And then I can pick the ones that I like. Sometimes I combine elements of both. So let me see. Echoes of Promptopia, The Human Heart in an AI World, Whispers in the Code, Unseen Human Dance. So I quite like Whispers in the Code, but I don't like that Unseen Human Dance. You say, I would like to be Whispers in the Code, and then maybe like Humanity Prevails. I like that instead of The Human Story Prevails. Cool. And yeah, of course it compliments me on my choice, which is helpful for my ego. Okay, cool. So now we have the title ideas. Now comes the final part, which is actually writing the sections. So I'm going to paste in here. These are the actual instructions. So based on the plot points and outline, the writing style, write the blog post without mentioning hero's journey or stages. Example writing style. So this is all the stuff that we had in the previous prompt, but now we're doing it at the end of quite a lot of work. And we have the instructions. Provide a very creative header for each plot point. We can actually remove that because we've got that in the hero's journey section. We can write at least 2 paragraphs per plot point, and that was our trick to getting it to write long content. And we're going to say in here, write 1 section at a time and then wait for feedback. And then again, this is essential. It's going to write a section and then it's going to ask me some feedback. And then I'm going to either say continue or give some feedback. And this is a slightly slower process than just spitting everything out at once, but I find I get much better results and I can correct it where it's going wrong. I can fix hallucinations. When it says something I don't agree with, I can make changes. And again, this is the main thing I want you to take away from this is that you can see in my process of prompt engineering, to get really good results, it is not just a case of delegating everything to ChatGPT. It is working with ChatGPT and it's learning how to speak its language and then teaching it to speak your language as well and get to the type of vision or result that you want. Something that reflects your actual preferences rather than something that is just the average of the internet. So we're going to hit stop here and you can see it's doing a pretty good job and it's writing out the different sections. And then we're just going to go into image generation and just going to paste in here our prompt from before. Now, that is the final kind of section. That is something that we had already separated out because it tends to get pretty confused when you ask it to do multiple things. Now, this is the part that we already had split out. We'd already divided labor a little bit here, so cheating. But now we have the final step completed. We have the image. Obviously, in reality, you would be just continuing going through each section, copy and pasting, giving feedback, and you'd have a document separately where you're pasting all this stuff. And then you have your final document. You can even copy and paste it into a new session and ask it to edit if you want and make changes. But I find with this process, you really don't need that much editing because you've been going through and giving such good direction throughout that you end up with better results. And here we go. I love this image with the drones. It looks like a little futuristic market. And I wouldn't have thought about this on my own. I wouldn't have thought of half of this stuff. I knew about solar punk, right? I wanted this fantasy style. I got to some place that was much better than I expected that I wouldn't have gotten to with ChatGPT alone. And equally, ChatGPT wouldn't have gotten to this place without me as well. It's a partnership. And I think that's the main thing you need to take away. It's not that you're going to lose your job to AI, but really that people who refuse to use AI are going to be replaced by people who bake it into their process.